The human soldier had been living on the alien outpost for almost 3 months, and by now, he thought he knew every face. The workers came and went, all wearing the same rough gray uniforms, heads low, busy with crates and supplies. They barely spoke to him, and he barely noticed them. But one worker was different. Though at first glance she seemed ordinary, she always wore a wide hoodie that shadowed her face, never looking anyone in the eye. She carried boxes, clean tools, stacked supplies, and blended into the crowd like she wanted to disappear. He had almost convinced himself she was just another worker, nothing more. Yet small things kept pulling at his attention. One afternoon, when a delivery of heavy mineral blocks came, the workers struggled. Two of them together could barely drag one crate across the dusty ground. He leaned against the wall, watching, until he saw her step forward. She looked small under the hoodie, thinner than most of the workers, almost fragile. But she bent down, gripped the crate, and lifted it alone as if it weighed nothing. Her arms didn't shake. Her back didn't strain. She carried it like it was light wood instead of a block of ore. He frowned. No alien worker could do that, not without showing the strain. And yet she moved calmly, head down, and placed the crate neatly beside the others, as if nothing unusual had happened. The soldier told himself maybe he imagined it. Maybe the crate was lighter. But later that same day, he caught her doing it again. Another heavy box, lifted without effort, while the others sweated and groaned. His eyes followed her, and he noticed something strange in the way the others avoided her. No one asked her for help. No one thanked her when she did more than her share. They kept distance, glancing at her only when they thought no one was watching. It was as if they all knew something about her and were afraid to speak of it. At night, the soldier sat in the dim mess hall, chewing tasteless rations, and saw her sitting alone in the corner. Hood pulled low, she ate quickly and left before anyone could sit beside her. A thought itched at the back of his mind. He had been on battlefields. He had seen spies hiding in plain sight. Something about her didn't fit, but he couldn't yet see what. The outpost itself was quiet, too quiet sometimes. The war had slowed, and for weeks no enemy had been sighted near this sector. Most humans relaxed, letting the alien workers handle the boring labor. But the soldier never trusted quiet. He kept his eyes open, and the worker in the hoodie became his puzzle. Why hide so much? Why never speak? Why move like someone trained, not like a common laborer? He remembered once brushing past her in the corridor. Even through her cloak, he felt the firmness of muscle, the tension of someone who knew how to fight. That memory stuck with him, refusing to fade. One evening, he stood guard near the storage hangar when he saw her again. The shift had ended, most workers gone to their bunks, but she lingered. She checked every lock, every crate, moving silently with a sharpness that did not match a simple worker. He narrowed his eyes, deciding not to announce his presence. Instead, he watched. Her hands moved quickly, scanning seals, testing doors, as if she knew what she was looking for. Then, without warning, she stopped, froze, and tilted her head slightly. The soldier's breath caught. She had sensed him, though he hadn't made a sound. Slowly, she pulled her hood lower, turned away, and vanished into the shadows of the corridor before he could step forward. The soldier leaned against the wall, uneasy. No worker should have reflexes like that. No worker should be that strong, that cautious, that different. He thought about reporting her, but something inside told him to wait. If she was dangerous, exposing her too early might cause trouble. If she was hiding from danger, revealing her secret might get her killed. Still, curiosity burned hotter every time he saw her. The next day, the workers lined up to collect their tasks. He stood nearby, arms crossed, pretending not to look. She appeared again in her hoodie, head bowed, hands folded, waiting for instructions. The commander of the outpost didn't even glance at her, just waved her off with the rest. Nobody paid her special attention, except him. He noticed the way she stood, feet balanced, posture too perfect, like a soldier waiting for orders rather than a worker waiting for chores. He felt his suspicion growing heavier, pressing on his chest. Later, when the sun dipped low and the red sky stretched across the horizon, the soldier walked past the supply yard. There she was again, alone, carrying 2 crates at once. He stopped in his tracks. Each crate looked heavy enough for 2 men, yet she moved with steady, graceful steps as if it cost her nothing. He stared openly now, certain this was no trick. She wasn't normal. She wasn't what she pretended to be. And yet she continued, calm and silent, never once acknowledging his stare. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay on his bunk, replaying everything he had seen. The image of her lifting those crates haunted him. The way the other workers avoided her haunted him. He knew there was a story buried under that hood, and it was only a matter of time before it came out. His instincts screamed at him that she was more than she appeared. A simple worker would not catch his attention. A simple worker would not unsettle him like this. And yet, every time he thought of confronting her, something held him back. The memory of her lowered head, the loneliness in her movements. She was hiding, yes, but she was also afraid. As the days passed, he kept watching. Each glance, each small movement of hers, made his suspicion sharper. He no longer believed she was just a worker. She was something else, something bigger, something dangerous, or something in danger. He just didn't know which. But deep down, he felt one truth echo inside him. Sooner or later, the hoodie would come off, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. The night was silent in the outpost, the kind of silence that always made the soldier uneasy. The desert winds outside howled softly, carrying dust across the metal walls, and the corridors lay empty except for the faint hum of power lines. Most workers were already locked in their bunks, and the few guards on duty kept their usual lazy watch. But the human soldier didn't sleep. Something gnawed at him. The same uneasiness he had felt ever since he started noticing the hooded worker. That night, his instincts told him something unusual would happen. He sat in the shadows near the supply yard, pretending to check his rifle, when he caught sight of her moving quickly through the corridor. Her hood pulled low, as always. She wasn't heading to the barracks like the rest. She was slipping away, almost gliding, as if she didn't want anyone to see her. He pushed himself off the wall and followed, careful to keep his distance. His boots made little sound on the metal floor, but even so, he slowed his breathing, heart thumping louder with each step. The alien worker moved like someone who had done this many times before. She hugged the shadows, paused at corners to listen, then crossed swiftly. This was no random walk. She had a destination. The soldier narrowed his eyes. Every move screamed training. A common worker would not know how to move like that. He stayed low, letting the dim lights hide him, every sense focused on her path. She slipped past the storage hangar, through a narrow service tunnel, then out toward the old courtyard where few ever went. He felt the chill of the desert night hit him as he followed her through the outer hatch. The stars above burned cold and bright, and the air smelled of iron dust. She moved with speed now, her boots crunching softly over the sand, heading for the abandoned watchtowers at the edge of the compound. He quickened his pace, but kept far enough not to be noticed. Yet, no matter how carefully he moved, he felt an odd sensation, like she already knew he was there. At one point, she slowed, her head tilting slightly, her hood catching the faint light of the moons. He froze, muscles tense, hardly daring to breathe. For a heartbeat, he thought she would turn around and spot him. But instead, she pressed on, faster this time, as if testing him, challenging him to keep up. His pulse raced. It was a chase now, even if no words had been spoken. She darted around a corner of the old tower, and he followed quickly, his hand tightening on his sidearm. But when he reached the turn, she was gone. The courtyard stretched ahead, empty, the tower silent. He frowned, scanning every shadow. A worker could not have vanished like that. He stepped forward cautiously, eyes shifting between the broken walls and the piles of discarded crates. The desert wind hissed between the structures, covering faint sounds. Then a voice cut through the silence. "Why are you following me?" He spun toward the sound. She stood in the shadow of the tower, hood still pulled low, her form straight and calm. There was no fear in her tone, only a warning edge, like steel hidden under cloth. His hand hovered near his weapon, but he didn't draw. Instead, he studied her. Her stance was strong, balanced, not like someone untrained. He knew in that moment she was aware of every move he made. "You don't belong here," he said carefully, his voice low. "Workers don't move like you do." She didn't answer right away. The wind lifted her hood slightly, but not enough to reveal her face. For a moment, he thought she might walk away and vanish again. Instead, she stepped closer, her movements graceful but dangerous, like a predator, not yet sure if it should strike. "Stay away," she said softly. But there was weight in her words, the kind of weight that came from someone used to giving orders, not following them. The soldier felt the warning, but he didn't back off. Something inside pushed him to know more. He had seen enough war to recognize when someone was hiding a truth. The silence between them grew heavy, broken only by the whistling wind and the distant hum of generators. "You're not a worker," he said finally. "Tell me who you are." For the first time, her head lifted slightly. He saw the glint of sharp eyes beneath the shadow of the hood, eyes that didn't belong to someone weak or broken. They were the eyes of someone dangerous, someone hunted or both. She didn't answer his demand. Instead, she turned swiftly and ran toward the broken path leading deeper into the desert ruins. Without thinking, he gave chase. His boots slammed against the ground as he followed her into the darkness. She was fast, far faster than any worker had the right to be. Her cloak trailed like a shadow behind her, and each time he thought he was close, she slipped ahead, taking sharp turns, using the ruined structures as cover. His lungs burned, but he pushed harder. He had to know who she was. The chase dragged them farther from the safety of the outpost, into places the human guards rarely patrolled. The towers around them loomed broken, reminders of battles long past. The soldier's mind raced as fast as his feet. No worker would risk coming here at night. No worker could move with such speed, with such certainty, as if she knew the land better than he did. At one point, she stopped suddenly and turned. He nearly crashed into her, but halted just in time. She stood there, breathing steadily, her hood still in place. For a long moment, they stared at each other in the pale moonlight, their breaths clouding in the cold air. "You should not have followed me," she whispered. The words carried no anger, only certainty, as though his fate was now tied to hers. He gritted his teeth, heart pounding, but before he could speak, she spun again and darted into the ruins, leaving him no choice but to continue after her. He realized this was no longer just about curiosity. This was about survival. Something was coming, something bigger than either of them, and he had stepped into it without even knowing. The chase ended in a deserted part of the ruins, far from the outpost lights. The towers here were broken, the walls cracked, and the ground covered with sand that whispered in the night wind. The soldier slowed, his breath heavy, his eyes scanning every corner. He had lost her for a moment, but then he saw her standing near the base of a collapsed wall, the hood still covering her face. The moonlight fell across her figure, showing the steady way she stood. She was not afraid of him. She was waiting. He lifted his weapon halfway, not pointing it at her, but keeping it ready. "Enough games," he said, his voice rough. "Tell me who you are." For a moment she was silent, her head tilted down so the hood hid everything. The desert air grew colder, the silence pressing between them like a wall. Then slowly, very slowly, her hand rose. With one smooth motion, she pulled back the hood. The soldier's eyes widened. What he saw was nothing like the ordinary worker he thought she was. Her skin glowed faintly, not with light, but with markings, thin lines of silver and blue running across her cheeks and neck, like veins of fire. Her eyes shone with a brightness he had never seen before, deep and sharp, carrying a weight of authority. Her features were fine, almost regal, and her posture was no longer the hunched shape of a worker, but tall, proud, like someone born to command. For a long moment, he could not speak. The truth hit him harder than a bullet. This woman was not a simple worker. She was someone powerful, someone important, someone dangerous. "You?" he finally managed, his voice low. "You're no laborer." Her gaze met his, cold and strong, yet there was a flicker of something else, fear maybe, or exhaustion. "I told you to stay away," she said softly, but her words carried sharpness. "Now you know too much." He stepped back, his mind racing. He had seen markings like those once before, long ago on the battlefield. They were the royal marks of a warrior caste, a bloodline known for strength and command. The kind of people who led armies, not carried crates. The kind who were hunted by enemies and even feared by their own. "Why are you here?" he demanded. "Why pretend to be a worker?" Her eyes narrowed, and she glanced toward the distant outpost lights, then back at him. "Because it's the only way I can live," she said. Her voice dropped lower, trembling slightly for the first time. "If they find me, I am dead. And not just me. Anyone near me will suffer the same fate." The soldier felt his grip tighten on his weapon, though he no longer raised it against her. His instincts screamed that she was telling the truth. Everything about her, the hidden strength, the silence, the way others avoided her, made sense now. She was hiding, pretending to be someone small, when in reality she was someone the galaxy would kill to erase. He shook his head slowly, trying to piece it together. You're royalty, aren't you? A warrior, maybe even more. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she didn't confirm or deny, but the silence was enough of an answer. The weight of what he had discovered pressed down on him, heavy and dangerous. You don't understand, she whispered, stepping closer. My people believe I am dead. If they learn I'm alive, war will return to this place. They will burn everything to reach me. That is why I hide among workers. That is why I cover myself. The soldier's chest tightened. He had fought wars. He had seen what royal bloodlines could do, how entire planets were crushed because of political enemies. And here, one stood before him, disguised, breathing the same air, working with the same hands as the lowest laborers. He should have been afraid, maybe even should have reported her. But instead, he felt something else, curiosity mixed with an odd sense of responsibility. You could destroy everything, he muttered. She met his eyes again, and this time he saw no anger, only raw honesty. Or save it, she said. It depends on who finds me first. His heartbeat quickened. He realized now why the other workers avoided her. They knew she wasn't like them. They feared being too close, feared being caught in the storm that followed her. She was a secret too big to hide forever. Why show me this? He asked, almost whispering. Why not kill me and keep hiding? Her face shifted, her expression unreadable. For a moment, he thought she might strike. But then she shook her head. Because you are human, she said, and humans are different. You don't kneel to our castes. You don't bow to our laws. You look at me and see what I am, not what they say I should be. Her words struck him deep, though he didn't want to admit it. She was right. Among her kind, her blood would define her fate. But here, in his eyes, she was simply someone standing in the cold night, trying to survive. The silence grew heavy again. The soldier lowered his weapon fully now, though his body stayed tense. He knew too much, she was right. And yet, he couldn't bring himself to walk away. Something about the glow of her markings, the fire in her eyes, the strength hidden under that cloak, it pulled him in. Then what now? He asked finally, his voice low and steady. She studied him for a long moment, her glowing lines shimmering faintly under the moonlight. Now, she said, you must decide. Either turn me in and watch me die, or keep my secret and carry the danger with you. The soldier felt the weight of the choice settle like a stone in his chest. He had never imagined that following a hooded worker would lead him to this moment. He thought he was chasing curiosity, but he had uncovered something far greater. His life, and perhaps the lives of everyone in the outpost, now hung in the balance of one secret, one decision, and the trust of a woman who was far more than she seemed. The night air grew colder as the two of them stood in the ruins, the silence stretching heavy between them. The soldier's mind spun with questions, but before he could ask more, she finally spoke again. Her voice was low, careful, as though each word cost her something. You think I am a worker, but I am not. I never was. He stayed still, his hand resting near his weapon, though he didn't raise it. Her glowing markings caught the faint moonlight, strange and mesmerizing. She drew in a slow breath, then said, I was born in the high caste, among the warrior houses. My bloodline once commanded legions. I am not supposed to be here, stacking crates like a servant. I am supposed to be dead. The soldier's chest tightened. He had heard rumors of the high caste warriors. They were legends, commanders, killers, leaders who could tear through armies. If she was telling the truth, then the quiet hooded worker he had followed was in fact a living ghost, someone whose survival would shake the galaxy. Dead? He asked, his voice flat, but inside his heart was racing. She nodded. There was an ambush. My convoy was attacked, my guards slaughtered, my enemies wanted me erased, my name forgotten. I escaped, but to survive, I had to bury myself in the lowest shadows. If anyone learns who I am, if even a whisper reaches the wrong ears, they will come again, and this time they will burn everything to get me. He thought of the outpost, just a small base, fragile, with thin walls against the desert. If enemies truly wanted her, they would not hesitate to destroy it, to kill everyone inside just to reach her. A cold shiver ran down his spine. You hide as a worker, he muttered, so no one suspects. Her lips curved in a bitter smile. A worker is invisible. No one looks at them twice. They are shadows that carry weight and clean the mess. Perfect place for me to vanish. She paused, then her gaze hardened. But you saw me. You noticed. That is dangerous, human. He held her stare, refusing to look away. So what do you expect me to do now? Pretend I didn't see, walk away and forget. She stepped closer, her glowing lines flickering faintly as her cloak shifted. No, I expect you to choose. You can report me to your commanders, and I will die before morning. Or you can keep my secret, and in doing so, tie yourself to my fate. The soldier's jaw tightened. He had faced life and death decisions before, but never like this. Why should I risk myself for you? For someone who isn't even human? Her expression darkened, and for a moment he saw the true warrior beneath the hood. Because if you betray me, your people will suffer. If I fall into enemy hands, they will not stop with me. They will come for this outpost, for your soldiers, for everyone. My existence is a weapon. If I live hidden, perhaps the war stays quiet. If I am exposed, the flames return. Her words sank deep into him. She wasn't asking for trust, not exactly. She was pointing out the truth. His choice could bring destruction, not just to her, but to his own kind. He cursed under his breath and turned his eyes to the dark sky above. Finally, he asked, "Why me? Why tell me all this? You could have stayed hidden." Something flickered in her eyes, softer than before. Because I was tired of shadows, and because you already saw too much. You watched me. You followed me. You questioned what others ignored. That makes you dangerous to me, but also useful. He gave a dry laugh. Useful. That's one way to put it. Her face remained serious. I don't want your loyalty. I only want your silence. If you keep my secret, I will survive. And if I survive, so will your outpost. That is the bargain. The soldier studied her, every instinct inside him fighting. He had sworn to protect his people, to report anything suspicious, to never let threats grow in silence. And yet, standing here, looking at her, he felt torn. She didn't look like an enemy. She looked like someone carrying a weight too heavy for her shoulders. She looked like someone running not for power, but for her life. Your own kind hunts you? He asked. Her jaw tightened. Yes. My enemies wear the same crest as my family. Power makes traitors of blood. They want the throne, and I am the last piece in their way. To the galaxy, I am a corpse already buried. If they find me alive, they will correct their mistake. He felt the honesty in her tone. It was not the voice of someone lying. It was the voice of someone who had lost everything. Then what happens when they come here? He asked, already fearing the answer. She did not hesitate. If they find me, they will slaughter everyone. Workers, soldiers, humans, it will not matter. To them, this place is nothing. Only my death will satisfy them. The soldier's stomach tightened. He thought of the men in the barracks, the guards sleeping at their posts, the laughter he had heard in the mess hall. None of them knew the storm that might be coming. None of them knew it was hiding beneath a hood, carrying crates beside them every day. For a long while, neither spoke. The desert wind hissed, moving sand across their boots. The soldier finally lowered his weapon completely, his hand falling from the grip. So now it's on me, he said quietly. Your life, their lives, all resting on whether I keep my mouth shut. She gave the faintest nod. Yes, that is the truth. He let out a slow breath. He had faced battles with guns and fire, but this felt heavier, a secret that could burn everything. And in the middle of it, he, a single soldier, now holding the choice. Her eyes locked with his, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Do not think too long. Danger is closer than you realize. If you stand with me, you must be ready. If you turn away, then walk now and let me vanish again. The soldier clenched his fists, torn between duty and instinct. He knew he should report her. He knew it was the safe thing, the right thing. But another part of him whispered that there was more at stake, something larger than orders. The secret hung heavy in the night air. One decision would decide not just her fate, but his own, and maybe the outpost's survival. The soldier did not get the chance to decide in peace. Before the night was over, the first signs of danger appeared. It began with a sound, distant engines rumbling across the desert, low and steady, like thunder crawling closer. The woman's head snapped up instantly, her glowing eyes narrowing. The soldier turned, scanning the horizon, and saw faint lights moving through the dust. Ships, not human ships. They found me, she whispered, her voice tight with fear. For the first time, she looked less like a proud warrior and more like a hunted fugitive. The soldier's heart pounded. He had been right. She carried a storm with her. And now it was breaking over the outpost. "How many?" he asked. "Too many," she replied, her tone sharp. "Scouts first. The rest will follow if they send the signal." He cursed under his breath. The outpost was small, with only a handful of guards awake at this hour. If enemy scouts got close enough to confirm her presence, the outpost wouldn't last a single night. He had seen how fast these raids spread. "Then we run," he said quickly. But she shook her head. "Run where? They will track me until I am ashes. No, I must hide. You must decide if you will help." The soldier clenched his jaw. Every rule drilled into him said he should turn her over, call command, let them handle it. But deep down, he knew command wouldn't protect her. They would use her, or worse, hand her to her hunters to avoid trouble. And the thought of watching her die while he stood silent twisted something inside him. The rumble grew louder, closer. The faint glow of ships touched the outer walls of the outpost. The woman grabbed his wrist suddenly, her grip strong, her glowing markings faintly lighting the night. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking now. "If they see me, all will burn. Don't betray me. Not now." He stared at her for a long moment. Her eyes held fear, but also trust, as though she had already placed her life in his hands. Against all training, against all instinct, he made the choice. "Come with me," he said. He pulled her back through the ruins, moving fast, staying low. The sound of engines grew sharper as enemy scouts landed near the outpost. The soldier knew they would search every corner. He had to hide her somewhere they would never think to look. His mind raced until one thought clicked. The one place no one would expect him to take her. His own quarters. By the time they reached the barracks, the outpost was stirring. Guards ran toward the walls, alarms starting to echo faintly. No one paid attention to him slipping inside the side corridor. He pushed the door open and pulled her into his room, shutting it behind them. The small quarters were cramped. Just a bunk, a locker, and a dim lamp. But it was the safest place for now. She stood in the corner, her cloak brushing the floor, her eyes glowing faintly as she listened to the alarms outside. "You risk everything," she said softly. "Story of my life," he muttered, pacing the room. His chest felt heavy. He had officially crossed the line. Hiding her meant betrayal of duty. If anyone found out, he would be court-martialed, maybe worse. But it was too late now. Outside, footsteps thundered in the hall. Voices barked orders. Scouts reported movement in the ruins. "Search every sector." The woman's eyes flickered, panic flashing for a moment before she mastered it. She pulled her hood low again, her body tense like a coiled spring. "If they break in, I will not go quietly," she warned. The soldier shook his head sharply. "No, you stay down. If they see you fight, it's over. I'll handle it." Her gaze locked on him, as if testing whether she could trust him. Finally, she gave a small nod and sank lower into the shadows of his room. The door rattled suddenly. A guard's voice shouted, "Inspection! Open up!" The soldier's stomach tightened, but he forced his face calm as he swung the door open. Two guards stood there, rifles ready, their eyes scanning the room. "Orders," one said flatly. "Scouts picked up movement. Could be smugglers, maybe worse. We're searching every bunk." The soldier leaned lazily against the doorframe, masking the pounding of his heart. "Smugglers out there? Fine. But my bunk? You think I'm hiding them under my pillow?" The guards pushed past him, scanning quickly. One opened his locker, another lifted the sheets on his bunk. For a tense moment, the soldier thought they would check the shadows where she crouched, hidden perfectly between the wall and the bed. His throat tightened, his hand twitching toward his sidearm. But after a minute, the guards shrugged. "Clear," one muttered. "Move on." They left, the door slamming shut behind them. The soldier exhaled slowly, his body shaking from the tension. In the corner, she rose silently, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. The danger wasn't over. If anything, it had just begun. "You saved me," she said finally, her voice low and almost disbelieving. "Don't thank me yet," he muttered. "This is just the start. If those scouts send word, the real army will come. And when they do, this outpost won't stand a chance." Her face hardened, but there was a flicker of something else in her eyes now. Respect, maybe even gratitude. She pulled her hood tighter, her voice steady once more. "Then we must be ready. Because they will not stop until they have me. The soldier sat heavily on his bunk, rubbing his face. He knew he had just thrown away his safety, his orders, maybe his whole future. But when he looked at her, at the glow of her markings, at the fire hidden behind her calm, he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't have let her die. And now, whatever storm was coming, they would face it together. The alarms slowly faded outside, though distant shouts and footsteps echoed through the outpost. The soldier sat on the edge of his bunk, his rifle resting across his knees, every muscle in his body tight. The alien woman stayed near the corner, hood back over her head, but her glowing markings still faintly lit the small room. Neither spoke at first, the silence pressing down on them, broken only by the hum of the lamp. Finally, she said quietly, "You could have turned me in tonight. You didn't." He gave a rough laugh without humor. "I guess I'm not good at following rules." Her eyes studied him, sharp yet thoughtful. "Or maybe you see what others refuse to see." She stepped a little closer, her movements graceful, controlled, but softer than before. "Not many would risk themselves for me. You don't even know my full story, and yet you shielded me. Why?" The soldier rubbed his hand over his face, sighing. "Maybe because I've seen enough war to know when someone's just trying to survive. You don't look like the monster they'll make you out to be. You look—" He stopped himself, unsure of the words. "You look like someone who's already lost too much." Her gaze softened, and for the first time, she lowered herself to sit across from him on the floor, her cloak pooling around her. The glow of her markings flickered faintly, not harsh now, but like soft firelight. "You're right," she whispered. "I lost everything. My family, my house, my place in the world. I carry the blood of warriors, but all that blood brought me was betrayal. My own Kun sold me out." The soldier listened in silence, his chest heavy. He had fought alongside comrades who betrayed each other for survival, seen officers abandon men in battle. But hearing it from her, it cut deeper, maybe because she spoke with such quiet pain. "They wanted me gone," she continued, her voice tight. "Because I was heir. Because I carried the crest. Power blinds those who crave it. They thought if I died, the throne would be theirs. I was supposed to burn in that ambush. Somehow I escaped. Since then, I've been hiding, wearing rags, working as a laborer. I became no one." Her words hung in the room like smoke. The soldier leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "But you're not no one. You can't be. I've seen you. You move like a soldier. You carry crates like they're feathers. That's not nothing." She looked at him, and for the first time, there was a faint, tired smile on her lips. "It's strange, hearing that from a human. Your kind doesn't bow to caste or crest. You see me as a person. My people would never allow that." He shrugged. "Maybe that's what makes us dangerous to you. Or maybe that's what makes us useful." For a long moment, they sat in silence again, but it wasn't the heavy silence from before. It was softer, almost fragile, like two people resting after carrying heavy burdens. Outside, the noise of patrols grew distant, fading into the night. For now, they were safe. The woman shifted, her voice quieter now, almost vulnerable. "Do you regret it? Hiding me? Lying to your own men?" The soldier thought for a moment, then shook his head slowly. "No, not yet. Maybe later, when it all blows up in my face. But not now." He looked directly at her, his eyes steady. "Right now, it feels like the only right thing I've done in a long time." Her eyes glistened faintly, though no tears fell. She looked down at her hands, the glowing marks painting faint patterns on her skin. "Where I come from, trust is rare. People pretend, people betray. But tonight, you chose me. I don't know why, but it means more than you think." The soldier leaned back, exhaling slowly. He didn't want to admit how much her words hit him. He had always seen himself as just another soldier, a man who followed orders, who survived battlefields and scars. But here, in this quiet room, she made him feel like his choice mattered, like he was more than just a uniform with a gun. She leaned forward slightly, her voice a whisper. "If I live, if I ever reclaim what I lost, it will be because of you. Not my people, not my blood. You." The weight of her words pressed into him, heavier than any weapon. He had not asked for this, but somehow it had found him. He knew now he couldn't walk away, even if he wanted to. She had placed her trust in him, and whether he liked it or not, it bound them together. "Then we'll make sure you live," he said firmly. "We'll make sure they don't take you again." Her lips parted slightly, surprise flashing in her eyes. For a moment, she seemed to want to argue, to remind him of the danger, but she didn't. Instead, she gave a slow nod, a spark of hope glowing behind her fear. The night stretched on, the room filled with a strange quiet. Outside, the desert winds howled, but inside, there was only the steady sound of two people breathing, waiting, preparing for whatever came next. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone, and for the first time in years, he felt like he had a purpose beyond orders. When she finally spoke again, her voice was softer than the wind. "You don't even know my name." The soldier gave a tired grin. "Then tell me." She hesitated, then whispered a name, one that carried the weight of lost kingdoms and fallen houses. He repeated it quietly, tasting the sound, holding it like a secret no one else would ever share. For the first time, her hood slipped fully back, her face clear in the dim light, no longer hiding. She met his eyes, and he realized something he hadn't before. She wasn't just a burden, or a secret, or a danger. She was a person, and now she was his responsibility. And as the night deepened, with danger pressing ever closer, the bond between them began to grow, not of blood or duty, but of choice. A fragile, dangerous bond that might be the only thing strong enough to keep them both alive. The night did not last in peace. At dawn, the outpost shook with the sound of explosions. The soldier woke to the alarms blaring, red lights flashing through the corridors. Dust rained from the ceiling as the walls trembled. He grabbed his rifle and turned to the alien woman. She was already standing, her cloak thrown aside, her markings glowing brighter now, no longer hidden. Her eyes burned with fire. "They're here," she said, her voice steady, almost calm. "The scouts must have sent the signal. The army has come." The soldier rushed to the door, hearing the chaos outside, shouts of men, the heavy thud of boots, the crack of gunfire. He turned back to her. "Stay here. If they see you, it's over." But she shook her head. "If I hide, everyone dies. They will tear this outpost apart brick by brick. I cannot run anymore." Before he could argue, another blast ripped through the outer wall. Screams echoed as fire spread across the yard. He cursed under his breath and realized she was right. The storm had arrived, and they had no choice but to face it together. The two of them ran into the corridor, joining the chaos. Soldiers scrambled for weapons, smoke filling the air. Enemy ships landed outside, their dark forms blotting out the sky. Warriors poured out, armored, armed, ruthless. The soldier fired alongside his comrades, but he knew ordinary bullets would not hold back an army like this for long. Beside him, the alien woman pulled off her hood completely, revealing herself to everyone. Gasps filled the air as workers and soldiers alike saw her glowing markings. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Then she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "Stand with me, or fall without me." Her words carried power, and even the frightened workers froze, staring at her. Then, before anyone could answer, she leapt into the fray. Her hands moved like lightning, her body a blur of speed and strength. She struck down armored warriors with blows too fast to follow, her markings blazing like fire across her skin. The soldier stared in shock. He had guessed she was strong, but seeing her unleashed was something else entirely. She was not just a fighter. She was a storm. Every movement carried years of training, every strike a reminder of the bloodline she came from. And yet, even as she fought, her eyes never left him. She was not fighting alone. He pushed forward, covering her with gunfire, cutting down enemies who tried to flank her. At one point, 3 warriors surrounded him. He braced for the end, but before they could strike, she was there, blades of pure energy crackling in her hands. She cut them down in seconds, her back pressed against his. "You should have run," he shouted over the roar of battle. "And leave you here?" She shot back, her voice fierce. "No, we stand together." The words lit a fire in him. They fought side by side, human and alien, until the courtyard was soaked with smoke and blood. But the enemy kept coming. More ships landed, more warriors spilling out. The outpost shook under the weight of the attack. The commander of the human garrison shouted orders, his voice breaking with fear. "Fall back! We can't hold them." The soldier looked at the woman, her chest heaving, her glowing markings burning bright as if fueled by her rage. She clenched her fists and growled. "If they take me, all is lost. I must not fall into their hands. Even if I die here, I cannot let them claim me." He grabbed her arm, forcing her to face him. "No, you're not dying here. Not while I breathe." She stared at him, and for a heartbeat, the chaos faded. She saw the truth in his eyes. He was willing to throw his life away for her. No oath, no bloodline, no command ordered it. It was his choice, and that choice gave her strength. The enemy's leader appeared then, a towering warrior clad in dark armor, his voice echoing across the battlefield. "The lost heir! She lives!" His words sent a shockwave through both armies. Workers froze, soldiers faltered. All eyes turned to her. The woman stood tall, her markings blazing like fire across her entire body. For the first time, she did not look like a fugitive. She looked like what she truly was: royalty, warrior, leader. "Yes, I live," she shouted back, "and I will never kneel to traitors." The enemy roared in rage, charging forward. But before they reached her, the soldier raised his rifle and fired, his shots striking true. He moved with her, covering her, shielding her. Together, they cut through the line, pushing the enemy back step by step. The battle lasted until the sun climbed high. When at last the smoke cleared, bodies lay scattered across the sand. The outpost was scarred, walls broken, but it still stood. The enemy leader was gone, his forces retreating into the desert. The surviving humans stared at the alien woman, their faces a mix of fear and awe. She stood beside the soldier, her cloak torn, her markings glowing faintly as the fire in her eyes dimmed. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the commander stepped forward, voice trembling. What are you?" She looked at him, then at the soldier by her side. For once, she did not hide. "I am the heir they tried to kill, but I am also the worker who stood beside you. I am both. And today, I survived because of him." She nodded at the soldier. The commander's gaze shifted to the human, who stood bloody, exhausted, but unbowed. No one questioned further. The truth was clear. Without the two of them, the outpost would have fallen. As the sun burned over the desert, the soldier glanced at her. She was no longer just a secret he stumbled upon. She was something far greater, and now their fates were bound together. He had saved her life, and she had saved his. And though the war was far from over, they both knew one thing: from this day on, they would never face it alone.